This is Valley News Live at 5.
Some are questioning how safe a popular online home rental company is after a family in the Twin Cities had a horrifying experience. An Airbnb guest renting a room in Minnetonka is being charged with attempted sexual assault after investigators say he climbed into bed with the host's 7-year-old daughter. Police say 28-year-old Derek Kinchin of Michigan was caught naked in the homeowner's bedroom. And that's got some people wondering if they should use the online service. There are dozens of Airbnb rentals in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Valley News Team's crime and safety reporter Nicole Johnson visited one of them.
When we bought the house, it was a family that had 7 children, and as the children moved out, they converted the upper floors to apartments. And so
this is Jay Nelson's house where he lives with his family. But there's an upstairs apartment inside too.
So this is the first door that would be secure. This is kept locked when an Airbnb client comes into town and I'm not available.
The section of the house where Jay lives is locked separately. When a guest comes to stay, they get keys for the locked upstairs apartment, which is comparable to a small studio space.
There's been no problems. In fact, this apartment was rented over the weekend, and the people that checked out, this is the condition they left it in.
Nelson says he chooses who he wants to stay with him based off reviews left online by previous hosts.
So we're all in the system, and so there's that mutual trust already established, and the contact information is in the system, so if anything does go not as expected, it's easy to track down who's responsible for it.
He says the service is as safe as it can be.
Even when someone is pre-qualified with Airbnb as a host and a guest, it's possible that humans will do things that you didn't expect them to do, and so that may have been a one-off incident. I haven't heard of a lot of that type of thing happening in Airbnb or Uber. I also drive Uber, but it does happen because you're dealing with human beings.
In Fargo, Nicole Johnson, Valley News Live.
By the way, Nelson's Airbnb is $89 a night. He keeps it local with Fargo art, Fargo books, and Fargo beer in the fridge. He says the service is a good thing for the community. After a few days of gloomy weather, the sunshine is back. It was at least a great day to get outside. Hutch, same thing goes for this evening?
Yes, it just feels so nice to step outside, that sunshine going to work, warming our temperatures 15 to 20 degrees over what we had yesterday at this time. Still cool in eastern Minnesota. As we look at the current conditions across the region, a few clouds out west and east, but here in the Southern Valley, particularly very pleasant conditions, 70 Grand Forks, 71 Jamestown, and mid-60s through much of Lakes Country. As we go through the evening hours tonight, it looks like temperatures will slip quickly through the 60s with mostly clear skies overnight. We'll be in the cool 50s for the evening, and it will be chilly in some areas, a chance for some patchy frost. This evening, though, get out and enjoy light winds and gorgeous conditions. Now, we'll talk about a little bit of a cool down, and we'll talk about our next chance of rain here in just a couple of moments.
All right. Thanks, Hutch.
Yep.
A somber day within Crookston schools. School leaders say a 6th grader took his own life. Last night, police responded to an unresponsive 11-year-old boy. The Crookston PD is investigating, but the school wants their students to feel supported. The superintendent says counselors and pastors were on hand at school today, some kids opting to head home for the day. School leaders say there are resources available and parents should reach out to Highland School in Crookston if kids need help. In fact, school leaders from across the region say the social challenges kids are facing are harder today than they have ever been.
How do we advise kids that are in a world that we didn't live in? And that's a challenge.
Tonight at 6, we'll look at the challenges kids are facing and how we can help through difficult times. Technology is at work again to prevent teen suicide. An app that is still in the developing stages is hoping to predict suicidal behavior. Fargo Public Schools is also continuing to use technology to prevent cyberbullying in schools. Valley News Team's Melanie Palmer has the story.
Teen suicide has become tragically common.
Suicide has many complex causes, and one of those contributing factors is bullying and social isolation. They kind of go hand in hand.
Bullying itself is a complex social issue, and social media is making it worse.
Ever since the internet became something that we use on a daily basis, and the communication systems that we have with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all the different ways that people can communicate, it's been around for a while. And so unfortunately people use those mediums, if you will, to inappropriately communicate about others or about things going on in the world.
An app still in the development process aims to prevent suicides, and in fact, it could detect signs before it happens. It's called the Spreading Activation Mobile App, also known as SAM. This app uses an algorithm based on the user's language, emotional state, and social media footprint. This isn't the first time technology has been turned to with hopes of preventing suicide. Fargo School District uses a mode of communication allowing students to express themselves in a confidential manner.
We have something called a text-to-tip program within our schools. That's with our school resource officer programs. That's very well advertised throughout our schools.
The Center for Disease Control reports that suicide rates have doubled among teen girls and increased more than 30% among teen boys. In Fargo, Melanie Palmer reporting for Valley News Live.
This app is currently being tested in a number of Cincinnati schools, and technology experts believe it could be at least another 5 years before a predictive algorithm could be reliably used in hospitals and schools. We're getting new information about a crash that shut down a Minnesota highway earlier today. We're now finding out a Minnesota man is dealing with serious injuries after the crash between a semi and a train today in Otter Tail. The driver of the semi, 32-year-old Kenneth Betts of Richville, suffered serious injuries and was airlifted to Sanford in Fargo. The collision happened just before 11 this morning. The crash was near Highway 108, and Department of Transportation officials say the highway had to be shut down for more than an hour because of the crash. Investigations say the semi crossed the railroad tracks without yielding and was struck by the train. A worker for an area grain company was hurt after getting trapped in a piece of equipment. It happened at Gavilan Grain, which is just west of Jamestown. Around 2:45 yesterday afternoon, emergency crews got a report of an industrial accident. According to reports, a worker was trapped in a piece of equipment outside the building and was freed by co-workers with a pry bar. We don't know the extent of the worker's injuries, but an ambulance was called to the scene. The North Dakota Highway Patrol is investigating the incident. Moorhead police officers are alerting the public about a level 3 sex offender who's now living in the area. Police say Leslie Lundstedt is living on the 700 block of 8th Street South. Lundstedt engaged in sexual contact with a 7-year-old female victim. The contact included sexual touching, and Lundstedt knew the victim. He also has a history of window peeping. Republicans unveiled the framework for new tax reform today on Capitol Hill. At a news conference this afternoon, Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, and other key congressional leaders called it a historic day for the country. The highly anticipated tax plan would provide large tax cuts to middle-class Americans, reduce the corporate tax rate, and simplify the process overall. Republicans say they still have a lot of work to do, but this is a major step forward.
9 out of 10 Americans will be able to file their taxes using a simple postcard-style system. Yes, we have a lot of work ahead, but today marks a major step forward in that process.
President Trump traveled to Indianapolis today to promote the new tax plan. The Trump administration is dramatically reducing the number of refugees allowed to resettle in the United States, bringing the number to the lowest in decades for the U.S. refugee admission program. The U.S. plans to admit no more than 45,000 refugees in the coming year, with regional caps included. Unlike in previous years, this cap does not include a so-called unallocated reserve quota for the administration to respond to unforeseen upticks in refugees within one of the regions. The new cap marks an especially steep decline from recent years. The head men's basketball coach at the University of Louisville has been placed on administrative leave after it was announced there's a federal investigation into fraud and corruption in college basketball. Rick Pitino left the campus today. The school's athletic director is also on administrative leave, and one student athlete is being withheld from NCAA activities indefinitely. The university says the moves are a typical response to an investigation. Federal prosecutors are looking into criminal activity related to men's basketball recruiting.